I'd played Dungeons and Dragons for about 5 years when I thought it might be nice to write my own, and it was because I'd begun using it at a school club as an after-school activity. That began, I'd been playing Dungeons and Dragons before I became a teacher. I became a teacher in 1978. And so I played Dungeons and Dragons, and we had a group who were playing Dungeons and Dragons regularly. And then the BBC Radio did a dramatised reading of The Hobbit. And so I had a copy of that for school. And instead of reading the children the story, we would get them to listen to the tape. And then we could have activities based around the story. And it occurred to me that they could be on a quest. So each table of 6 children, I had 30 children, 5 plus 6, would be the adventurers. I mean, I knew about Lord of the Rings, but this was The Hobbit. So I knew about like the Fellowship and things. And the dwarfs are in a big party, aren't they? And I knew about Dungeons and Dragons. I find all that information, and I let the children choose characters and throw dice and add them together. Nice little maths lesson. And then, as the story unfolded, they began to draw fantasy maps, and they looked at different authors and different ideas of historical fantasy maps and world maps, and plot the story and design their own worlds, and even things like, you know, what equipment you would have in your bag became an interesting activity. So I was playing Dungeons and Dragons from the official modules, which weren't suitable for primary schools for a number of reasons. Especially like, I mean, I taught a lot in church schools. I taught a lot in schools that had for a number of different religious messages. Dungeons and Dragons in the 80s was coming under fire for breaking some taboos. Wasn't like it is now, gentlemen, ladies. You don't know you're born. So I didn't take it into school, but 82, I had a group of youngsters, 2 boys, 2 girls, who were superb gamers. They really got into the whole role play spirit. So I thought, right, okay, rather than have to confront with Dungeons and Dragons, our parents or the head or whatever, leaping to conclusions because of what they'd read in the press or people were debating, and I'd write my own adventure stories based around The Hobbit, because that was fine. We were doing that as part of an English lesson. Everybody knew about that. Pillar of English literature. So that's what I did. So I was looking at things like the Trolls cave in The Hobbit, or the Goblin mines, the Elf Kingdom, feeling I was on safe ground. But I also wanted that element of Dungeons and Dragons that fitted into the Hobbit story but was missing from the Hobbit story, which wasn't Dungeons and Dragons and was acceptable. So I began writing my own dungeons, only little bits of things, and I took the inspiration from real life, and just a couple of genuine examples from my very first dungeon. When they used to take the children swimming on a Friday afternoon, and at the local swimming pool, there were two lots of changing rooms, and out of the changing rooms you had to go through a foot washy bath thing, and it was about 4 inches deep, but it was a good 6 feet long, and if you looked down it, you couldn't see a door. The door was right at the end, slightly set aside. And it occurred to me, as the supervising all this chaos and mayhem going on in the changing rooms, and I thought, just imagine if I was in a dungeon, and instead of that being water, it was acid. How on earth would you get past that? And without worrying about how anyone would ever get past it, I put that into the dungeon. Now, at the time, it was a drawing. It was just a sheet of paper. This is the room, and I drew it, and I wrote out everything as a dungeon master. I have now, with the joy of AI, been able to bring that to life. The second one was something I'd read in a dungeon module that I liked the sound of. And then again, we had an art lesson, and in this art lesson, the children were given plastic face masks. You know those white things on that, is it V for Vendetta? And they all wear them. They were like that. But what they had to do then was cover them in papier-mâché, and they had to paint them as if they were part of a stone wall, like part of busts on statues. And the display board was a grey. The teacher had made a grey wall, and they put them on. And I went into this particular teacher's room after school looking for some chalk or something, and I saw this big long grey wall with 30 heads, all with eyes looking at me, and I thought, that's good, yeah, I'm gonna do that. So I stuck that in my dungeon, and again, thanks to I use CapCut. I can bring things to life that I never thought I could, and I certainly, with my Parkinson's, can't draw or attempt these things on my own. So people who think AI is a lot of rubbish, tough. I couldn't do it without it. If you can, bully for you. Yahoo sucks. I've been asked, where did your inspirations come from? Where do your inspirations come from for making your own dungeons? I would say real life, just things that happen, things you see, but then you twist, just put a little twist on things. And that's true of everything imaginative, I suppose, isn't it? Most things are generated from somewhere. As if C.S. Lewis gets the idea of the entrance into Narnia from a genuine door he sees in Oxford, and the lamppost that gives him the idea of the lamppost is a genuine lamppost. You can go and see it. It's there. Tolkien was inspired by buildings, places he saw. Nindalf was inspired by his time at Passchendaele in the First World War. Everything's inspired by something, and you've just got to keep it all filed away until the right time comes along. I'm sure you've got loads of stories of things you've invented and created that have come from really quite mundane events or activities, whether that's a place or a room in a dungeon or a character. Tell us about it. I dare you. All right. Ta-ra, Chuck.